Welcome to the Brave Women at Work podcast. This is your host, Jen Pastikas. I'm so glad you're here. With the Brave Women at Work podcast, you'll get the resources and tips along with real-world stories and humor to empower and inspire you to take bolder and braver actions in your career and life. Welcome to the Brave Women at Work podcast. This is your host, Jen Pastikas. I'm so glad you're here. Well, hey everyone, how are you doing out there? So, did you know that the female brain and the male brain are different? So, you might be wondering or thinking, no kidding, Jen, or no kidding, Sherlock. But you know what? The only time that I have studied it or I have recalled that being discussed is that the oldie but goodie book. Remember this book? Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. So, my guest today, when I met her, Barbara Annis, she's made it her life's work to study gender intelligence, the differences, and in her newest book, which we'll talk about today, the brilliance of the female mind. So, as soon as I was like meeting her, I'm like, I'm in. Because my last understanding of this is from that good old book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And I knew that Barbara could impart some wisdom on me and all of you today. So, for most of my career, sad to say, I have tried to mold myself, contort myself into a man's world. So, after all, I was in the investment services space to start, which is predominantly male, and then in financial services, which, can be a mix. But in my spaces and the places I have been, I believe I've shared this on the podcast before. I have not had a female boss since, let me think about this, 1999, 2000. Okay. So as we're recording this, that is 25 years that I have not had a female boss. So I have tried to mold myself into a man's world. So it was a refreshing perspective to hear Barbara talk about why that isn't needed and, quite frankly, why it just isn't productive. It's kind of a waste of time because all women, including me, we need to own our strengths. So during the podcast, Barbara and I chatted about what is gender intelligence and why is it important for us to know about. What led Barbara to write her latest book, The Brilliance of the Female Mind: How Women Are Transforming the World. How men's and women's minds are different. How we can nurture our strengths as women. What are the confidence pitfalls we face as women? And what actions can we take to correct these pitfalls? And then Barbara has an assessment we can take on gender intelligence on her website. So I think that would be fun, and we can link that up in the show notes if you're interested. So here is more about Barbara. Barbara Annis, CEO of Gender Intelligence, is a world-renowned expert on gender, diversity, and inclusive leadership, advocating the value and practice of this new type of leadership in organizations worldwide. Her insights and achievements have pioneered a transformational shift in mindsets for men and women across the globe on the importance of gender unity to organizational success. Barbara began her career as the first woman in sales at Sony and became the first woman sales manager with 14 Outstanding Sales Achievement Awards and Sony's MVP Award. Over the past 30 years, Barbara Annis and her 51 associates have partnered with organizations to transform cultures and leadership behavior while creating greater gender balance at all levels. They have facilitated over 8,000, workshops and conducted thousands of leadership assessments and executive coaching sessions. So if the Brave Women at Work podcast has helped you, whether that's personally or professionally, please make sure to share it with a family member, a friend, or a colleague. And you know it, the ratings and reviews, they matter. I wish they didn't, but they do. So if you can do me a favor and leave a rating and review, if you haven't already, and I'm going to ask for you to do that in Apple Podcasts, I would so appreciate it. We just cracked 70 reviews out there from all over the world, and it just warms my heart and it helps me kind of keep motivated to keep going, to keep getting you as the best quality guests that I possibly can, to create the best quality content that I can. So if you can leave a rating and review, it would just mean the world to me. If you haven't yet downloaded my freebies from my website, check them out at bravewomenatwork.com. So the three out there today are 24 career and leadership affirmations, 5 ways to managing your imposter syndrome, and getting paid 10 negotiation tips. Also, a couple last announcements. I have one, maybe two spots for one on one coaching this fall. So if you are looking for support in reaching your professional goals and you want that kind of one-on-one attention as you wrap up 25 and you start planning for 2026, you can schedule a discovery call. It's 30 minutes. It's simply for me to get to know you and you to get to know me, my coaching style. I'll explain how the coaching process works and we'll see if it's a fit. It's completely complimentary and it's 30 minutes in length. If you are interested, just click on discovery call on my website at bravewomenatwork.com. Also, just like a spoiler teaser alert of something I've been cooking in the Brave Women at Work kitchen. I don't really cook, but in my business kitchen, I've been cooking up an affirmation deck for you all. So, an affirmation deck is, you've probably seen tarot decks or you've seen affirmation cards, maybe that you've had from prior people that you've purchased. And they're just sayings, like you would pull a card every day. And the thing that makes them unique is this. So I actually polled prior podcasts, speak much, guess. And I also, women in my community, women that I have worked with, Brave Women at Work authors among the anthology series. And we created this beautiful, I love this deck. It's 54 affirmations that you can purchase. And it's in a beautiful box. And it's just a nice thing to have on your desk and pull for motivation and inspiration on a daily basis. And you can just keep rotating them. So those are going to be available in, I'm hoping, September on my website. So as soon as those come live, I will let you know. But I just wanted you to know, spoiler alert for my podcast listeners, of what I've been working on this summer for you all. All right, let's welcome Barbara to the show. Well, hello, Barbara. Welcome to Brave Women at Work. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
I am thrilled as well. And everyone, I did already ask, if you're watching on YouTube, I asked Barbara if that background was real or fake, and it is absolutely real. She has an extensive library, obviously is well read in her work. So again, I'm excited to have you and to dive into all things the female mind. So thanks again for being here. So why don't we start by asking you, you've already mentioned to me before we started recording and hitting record that you're from Denmark. So tell us a little bit about your background story and how you've gotten to where you are.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Copenhagen, and I immigrated, married with a young family, and I started my first career at Sony as the first and only woman salesperson. They call it Female Salesman of the Year. I won that award, the MVP award, and I won 14 Outstanding Sales Achievement. One of the things that I saw in how I approached clients versus my male counterparts was very different, and that's kind of, after 7 years with Sony, that really embarked me into what is that difference and how can we really capitalize on that, because women have brilliant hardwired differences in our brain and how we think and how we process and how we relate and sell. So that's how I started. 30 years later, here I am, 6 books I've written.
Yeah.
And the latest one, as you know, is called The Brilliance of the Female Mind. And I think we're going to embark on a deep dive on that.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. So just because I love these kinds of stories, when you were a child, did you think about this? Like, did it all make sense, or were you always kind of geared in this way, or you really had no idea and it just like unfolded and you just trusted the unfolding?
That's a great question. I haven't been asked that before, so thank you for that. I think as a child, I saw what I saw in terms of the patriarchy of the world that I didn't see, in my adolescent and teens, that there's got to be another way of how we relate, not only to each other as male, female, but also in the world in terms of the type of leadership and the type of things that were happening, I traveled throughout Europe, and I saw
Hmm.
different things. So I think I saw, I don't think I articulated per se, but I think I definitely had this, wait a minute, there's got to be another way here. So I think I had
Mm.
that. Yeah.
Okay, so that curiosity. I
Yeah.
mentioned on another podcast I had a philosophy class, and I think it was I did a paper on relativism versus objectivism. And my professor said curiosity cannot be taught, right? And so it sounds like you may have been curious.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to ask you before we get right into the book is that you said, you won awards at Sony as the salesman, right? For you were the first and only, right? Um, what was that like at that time, 30 years ago, being in that kind of sphere?
Well, you have to go back 30 years. So it's a very alpha sales culture, and
Yeah,
when I got I mean, first of all, I went through 6 interviews scrutinizing whether I could do the job, right? And when I
yeah.
got the job, my manager, who I eventually became my employee because I raised different levels, but he shook my hand and he said, "Good luck, I'll give you 1 year." And
Mm,
then my Japanese manager sat with me and said, I think we're not going to give you commission because I don't think you're going to achieve, you're new, you're in a learning curve. So we'll just give you a base salary. And then the second year we can give you commission. And I won Rookie Salesman of the Year in the first year. So I broke every record, possible back then. But
Now
it,
I'm
yeah,
thinking of the song like "How Do You Like Me Now," right?
I like that. We should do that. That would have been a good one. Anyway, the thing though that I think is super important because it's relevant today to women at all ages right now is that we get forced into a male model often, right? So
Hmm.
so my boss, within that year, he said, you're good, but you need more aggression. You need to be more in their face. That kind of language, right? He said,
Hmm.
there's this course in San Francisco. Why don't you go and take it? And the course was called Guerrilla War Tactics for Women in Business.
Wow.
3 day course. Get this, 30 years ago, 3 day course. I took everything on, all the whatever they recommended, said, I'm going to give it a shot, right? Because I really wanted to prove myself. And also I wanted to be one of the guys, because back then you tried to fit
Mm.
in. Do you know what I mean? You just
Yes.
tried to fit in. So anyway, I came back from that and they told me at the year end, when you get your assessment, they said, oh, she's become a very dangerous woman. So I went from being my authentic self to taking on these extreme male behaviors, and that became dangerous. So it's catch 22. But I still see it happening. It's more subtle right now. But
Hmm.
I see it happening when anybody, HR talent management says, okay, is she a good fit? Or does she have what it takes to get to the next level, right? And so there's that lens, right? So I often say men get advanced based on their potential. Oh, Bob is great. I like that guy. I golf with him, right? And and women get uh, promoted based on what they've done, right? So there's that added scrutiny that women go through, right? And if
Hmm.
they don't show up like the male competency model that usually is in business, then you get that added lens as well.
But like this is the definition, and then we'll talk about gender intelligence, but this is the definition, the very definition of the double bind, right? So you were told to take this class in guerrilla warfare for women in business, right? Which is crazy, the title itself. But again, 30 years ago, we're going to give everybody some space and grace.
Yeah.
You do that, then you get too aggressive, and then people are intimidated by you. So like what gives? Like you can't win.
Well, you still hear it. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a law firm in New York, and they were looking at who's going to be next partner. And they talked about this woman. I'll change her name to Sophie. And they said,
Hmm.
but Sophie, she's got sharp elbows. She's not easy to work with. I mean, it's right there and then, right?
Hmm.
So I don't know Sophie, but that's what I heard. But you'd venture to say she's probably tried to gain credibility and be a really, really good lawyer. Do you know what I'm saying? And then,
Hmm.
and a male lawyer who's aggressive is like, what a guy, right? He's the best.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
Everyone's listening, going like, yeah, yeah.
so it's still there. It's still there. The question is, and as we go through the gender intelligence pieces, what do we do about it, right? And how do we shift the paradigm in truly valuing the incredible talent and skills women bring?
hmm So let's
Actually.
go there. Yeah, let's go there because we are going to talk about gender intelligence. So I wanted to start with your definition because this is your life's work, right? And your life's one of your life's purposes, but not everyone even understands what that means. So what does that mean to you?
So about 25 years ago, I was on stage, a large audience, and I was talking about gender equality.
Hmm
And Gloria Steinem was on the panel and all of that. And I thought, you know what? There's something about that language that isn't going to get us there. And what I thought about was, well, so equality, we're fighting for it. Do you know what I mean? We're
hmm
fighting, we're pushing against the male paradigm, we're wanting to be heard, we're blaming men often, in that world. Versus then I thought, what about gender intelligence? What about really honoring differences? What about
hmm
moving from great minds think alike to great minds think unalike? And it created such an opening in the audience of, wow, that makes sense, right? And an opening for men. Men found it incredibly freeing. We can actually talk about this. We can talk about these differences, right? And women found it incredibly validating. So I've stayed that course ever since. Yeah,
So just so I understand, because this is amazing. So you're the one who coined the phrase gender intelligence.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just that little thing. Just that
Just
little
a little
thing.
thing.
So, okay, so this is, you said, your sixth book. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more, and we're going to say again the title, The Brilliance of the Female Mind, How Women Are Transforming the World. So tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, the first five books that I wrote was more about men and women, right? And I really want,
Yes.
what I saw missing was, of course, throughout it, I always have the business case, right? What it just makes business sense. 85% of consumer spending is done by women. The
Mm-hmm.
competence that women bring in terms of leadership makes a better, different, and problem solver, strategic thinking, innovative thinking, and creating a culture that works for everyone. So those
Mm-hmm.
four, right? So I've seen that from 62 different studies around that honoring and encouraging the differences makes a measurable difference. So this book, I really wanted to honor that. I really wanted to really speak about the science, the facts of women and the future of women and girls in the world. That was my mission. And I have to tell you, it hasn't been out for that long, but the feedback that I've gotten around the world, not only from women, but from men and younger men, truly appreciating, saying, I had no idea, I had no idea. I was kind of tolerating these differences versus really seeing them as not only an incredible strength, but a strength for me being a man, having more
Mm-hmm.
female colleagues makes better sense and creates better results. Why not? So it's really created that opening. That was the intention.
Okay. And so tell us, and I know we're going to have a visual. So for our visual learners out there, we're going to have a visual that we'll put out there either in the show notes or maybe we'll somehow connect it to socials like when this goes live. But tell us the difference between like the male and the female brain, like high level. And I know like the visual also helps reinforce.
Sure. So there are many differences, but I'll start with one, and that was my biggest
Hmm
aha moment. So in '89, there was a book that came out from the UK called Brain Sex, and it was a neuroscientist and a journalist who co-wrote it.
hmm
And when I started reading and by the way, I resisted gender differences. I was at Sony. Do you know what I mean? I was like, don't
Right.
talk to me about differences. I worked so hard to try and fit in. You're going to come here now say,
That's interesting. Yeah, that is true because you were trying to be one of the guys, and here you
okay,
are, like the opposite, doing the
don't
exact
even go
opposite.
there. Because
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I call it the Gloria Steinem mindset, is that if you start differentiating women, it's going to hurt them. And I felt that, I felt, oh my God, now they're going to say I'm empathy and sensitive and, no, go away, right?
Hmm
Stop. So anyway, brain sex. I looked at a lens with great scrutiny when I read it, and I thought, oh my God, this is wow. There's so much studies. There's so many. So I've been studying since '89 up until now, and I continue. Now AI, by the way, there's an explosion of research around AI, and we can get to that if you want,
hmm
around what's happened in the last year or two around seeing a 90% confidence level on the hardwiring differences between men and women and boys and girls. And even before we are born in our second and third trimester,
Wow.
see in the fetus, we see the development of the brain. And I'll send you that visual as well, if you would like.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to.
We can literally say, oh, wait a minute, this is nature, and I have four kids, two boys, two girls. And I remember my first son, I thought, I'm going to get it so gender neutral. It's not even funny. Do you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
saw these differences. I went, wait a minute, you're two. What are you doing? You know what I mean? In terms of how he's interacting with toys versus my
Your
daughters.
daughters. Yeah.
So anyway, my point is that, and to answer your question, is that I've been sailing in that world, in a deep dive world around these newer signs of gender differences. And one that really woke me up is this one. I saw a brain scan of a resting male brain and a resting female brain. And it's also in my TED talk. And I saw that the resting male brain, not only sleeping, but just relaxing, has very little neuron activity in it.
Mm-hmm.
Resting female brain is on fire, right? So when women ask a man, colleague or partner or whatever, what are you thinking when he's relaxing? And he says nothing, he's actually telling the truth. It's actually possible for men and boys to think about nothing. And for us, it's impossible. So seeing that brain slide went, wait a minute, I can never unsee that, do you know? And then
Mm-hmm.
playing with that 8,000 workshops all over the world, where I asked that question before even showing it, saying, okay, for the women in the audience, how many of you have ever asked a man when he's resting, what are you thinking? And they all say, nothing, right?
Right. They're like just watching the TV, like nothing. And you're
Nothing.
like, that's not possible. Like, and then we're like, like needling them for an answer.
Yes, because we firmly believe that it's not possible. We firmly
Correct.
believe that he either doesn't care or he's tuning out,
Or he's holding back or whatever.
holding back, all of that
Yeah.
stuff. Right? So now dig a little deeper in that brain slide. So what we saw, I have a whole brain trust of scientists with me, was that it is actually necessary for the male brain to do that. And the reason
Hmm.
being is that's how men de-stress. That's how they replenish their testosterone. And for women, we need a different way of de-stressing, which is called talking it out, right? We need to
Yes.
it out to replenish our oxytocin, which is our calming hormone, right? And when we're not heard or we're not, we're talking out and we're just saying, oh, don't worry about that, or just do this or fix that, or that is where pains women. They're not heard and understood, and it doesn't calm the brain. So that was my number one aha moment.
Okay, so that is like, I'm kind of like just enlightening to me. That's probably required learning right there. So, when we're yelling at our partners, our husbands, like getting frustrated with our male colleagues, our bosses, that I mean, and there could, again, every situation,
Yep.
is different.
Yep.
But if they're saying that they're not really thinking about anything, they actually could not be thinking about anything.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
the first piece. And then the other piece now that makes me feel better and validated, so thank you, is that
Mhm.
my husband's always like, why do you have to have that like 10 to 15-minute rap session at the end of every day about your work day and like blah, 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 like that piece?
Yes.
And he's like frustrated because he's like, he just said this to me yesterday. Like, there is some truth to this, me personally, but he's like, you're never really off is
Yes.
what he said to me. And I'm
Not.
like, I'm not now. Now I know I'm not off. Is that right?
You're not off. So you need to have different tools to do that. Do you know what I'm saying? Because
Yes.
if we don't understand that we're wired differently, it creates a blind spot and we literally blame ourselves for who we are, whether we articulate it or not. It's an internal, oh, well, maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I just can't turn off. No, no, Jen, you cannot turn off. You cannot turn off. So then the question is, what do we do to do that? Right? One is
Yes.
he needs to hear you out, or whoever hears you out. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
That's
Right.
part
Right.
of it. I always say, I have a request. Give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I need to just, calm my brain, and here it is. And then I say it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's so important to do that. Otherwise, and we'll talk about that when we get into the pitfalls. Otherwise, we get hooked by what's called female rumination. So that we ruminate about things over and over and over again, right? And often the things we ruminate about, we either don't have any control over, right? Or we over worry. We see so much more into the situation, right? That we tend to over worry. So we'll get into it a little more, but it's something that's really important because when we get into the neuroscience of differences, the hippocampus of the brain, memory centers of the brain, emotional content of the brain, is much larger and more connected in women. So women tend to remember everything, right? So, for example, if you have a situation here and you're in an argument with your husband, partner, colleague, whatever, you'll remember all the earlier situations dating back, right? For example, he comes to the office late or comes home late. You'll remember naturally, wow, this is a pattern. This is a theme. This happened last Tuesday, last Friday. You know what I mean? It's just natural
Yes.
next, right? So it's important for us in this rumination piece that we do something else because that is exhausting.
Oh my God, this is mind blowing for me. So we'll talk about the pitfalls.
Yeah,
I want to hear about the pitfalls because what I'm hearing is if you don't like get that oxytocin up and you don't have that 5 minutes to discharge and process and get it out,
right,
it sounds like it gets stuck in like loops in the body. And
right,
that's when like worry and rumination start. Is that what it
correct.
is?
Exactly. Because you haven't been able to create a clean slate, right? You haven't been able to kind of say, okay, I'm done with that, you know? So
Does
there
it
is
have to be with a male for that
no
discharge? Like, or it can be
any
anybody.
anybody. It's part
Okay.
of the hard wiring. We just need to get that venting out, you know? It's not women know what to do. Do you know what I mean? Women are brilliant, right? So it's
Yeah.
not about fixing women, right? It's about here. There's nothing that pains people in general, but in particular women, not to be heard and understood, right? And just to be,
Okay.
simple, right? After that, we know exactly what to do, right? Once we kind of calmed everything, said, okay, great, I got it. Now I know I'll do this one thing, and I won't even bother with that kind of thing, right? So it's a different kind of breath of fresh air when we've gotten that out of the system.
So what do our, just so I understand, a couple questions, I might be a little all over, but what do our men need? So if our women need to, let go and like process that for 5 to 10 minutes to like kind of get them regulated to know what to do,
Yeah,
with the men being linear and bless them. I mean, they can actually think about nothing. That sounds like a vacation,
I want
but
that.
I
Yeah,
want that too. So, but what do they need from us, right? In the reverse,
time out. They
time
need
out.
time out. Oh, and boys too. They need time
Okay.
out. I can't tell you how when I didn't know about, and we'll get to that too, I think, parental differences, I did not know that how to talk to my sons needed to be different than my daughters, right? So my daughters, if they come home from school and say, "How are you?" and they go, "Oh my God, I had a bad day," and the teacher this and that, da, da, da. And
Yes.
they'll say, "I feel so much better," right? And then I'll go to my sons and I know they've had some issues, whatever. And
Yeah.
then, how was your day? And they go, fine. I said, okay, talk to me
Yes.
a little bit more because I know there's more than that. I said, no, it was okay. I said, oh my God, my son is suppressed and depressed, versus no, wait a minute, he needs time out. He'll come to me. He'll come to me, right? But
Okay.
he needs that, shoo, I just need time out, right? And they don't know this, right? They don't know that's part of the hard wiring. So that's why you get nothing. I'm okay, it's good. You don't get the direct, Jen, I just need 10, 15 minutes. You don't get that, right? So
Oh my God, this is so funny because when my husband like is done with work and like we have like a man cave downstairs and he'll be like, I just need a half hour. So that's what you're telling me is he's literally taking a time out.
there are studies that show that men who commute longer from work to home actually have a better home life because they've,
Okay.
they've had that time to just kind of decompose. So
Okay, yes, this is going to be required listening for my husband. This particular podcast is going to be required for me too.
yeah.
Me too. So, okay, so we've talked about that. Let's dive into, and we may come back around to parenting. We'll see where the conversation goes. So, like you said that you have 7 confidence crushing pitfalls that women face. So
Mhm.
let's kind of go through that because I talk a lot about confidence in this podcast. So when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, we need to go here.
Okay, great. So I'll go through them in terms based on what we said, so it's kind of built on each other. So the first one is women scrutinize themselves a lot, like a lot.
Yes.
And often that is kind of a silent pain. Do you know what I mean? We'll
Mm-hmm.
look in the mirror and we go, oh my God, or somebody will compliment us and we might say thank you, but then we'll say something like, you should have seen me this morning or something like that. But there's some
Mm-hmm.
kind of discounting mechanism that kicks in that doesn't serve us. right? So I've developed, over the years, I've developed something like this and go, okay, all right. So I'm screwing, is this serving me? Seriously. Do you know what I mean? It's really
Mm-hmm.
serving what I'm up to in life? No.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm letting it go, right? So I really commit myself to short-term suffering in this, like that self-scrutiny.
Mm.
And I'll look in the mirror and go, oh, here's another wrinkle. So what? Do you know? So we
Yeah.
need to kind of lighten up around that self-scrutiny. And also younger women, oh my God, social media, there's so much we get bombarded with, whatever the ideal is, right? But it's even in leadership behavior too, or as a manager, we tend to say, we'll say something like, I did a really good job here, but then we'll think about the things that we could have done better, right? So we get into the
Yes.
self-scrutiny mechanism in a way that kind of hits our confidence level, right? And I'll give you a personal example. I was in Florida, I was speaking at a conference for a large consulting accounting firm, and it was a last minute thing that was added on, and usually I get showcased and they give me the bio and who I am and my background,
Sure.
and none of that. I was kind of added into it, and it was like 600, mostly men, right, in here.
Yes.
I said, where's that he said she said girl? That was my intro. He said she said.
Wow. So
And I
were
went,
you already like thrown off, like even like before you got on stage?
well, I thought, who the hell would introduce me like that? Number one, right?
Yeah,
And then my
right.
self-scrutinizing came in saying, how the hell do I overcome this? Right. And then
Yeah.
I went in and I started introducing my bio, right? Which people kind of rolled their eyes. And then the rolling their eyes, I went into extra self-scrutiny. Anyway, an hour of pure hell. You know what I mean? Because I could not shut off my brain. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It was awful. But I remember leaving and I was at the airport and I saw some of the people there. And I went, oh my God, let me avoid them. So I went into the business lounge or whatever and started
Yes, yes,
came
yes.
in there. But anyway, my whole point of that example is we all have had that type of experience. Do you know?
Yes.
And we need to say, you know what? They screwed up. You did not. You did not screw up. They didn't even set the stage for you. You were squeezed into an agenda that had all kinds of vitally important subjects that they were concerned about, right? And then I came on stage with this he said, she said, blonde thing standing up there.
God.
It's just like, so I would, but I had to be very surgical about letting that go and saying, you know what, you have nothing to do with that. You gave it your best shot, let it go, right? And I think it's so important for women to think back on those situations and really look at ownership because we tend to take it all on, right? Like we own the whole
Mm-hmm.
thing. Do you know what I mean? Oh my,
Mm-hmm.
I should have,
Yes.
I should have done that. Shoot, so many shoulds in that one, right? So
Yes.
that's one
Okay,
piece.
so the scrutiny, there's one, and you have to like let it go.
Yes.
What if it, and then I know I don't want to keep interrupting, but I just want to ask, what if it keeps, there are a lot of people, including me, it keeps nagging. So like it's easy to say and hard to do. So is it just come with practice to let it go where it's
It
really
is
gone?
very good. Very, very good question. It is a muscle that we need to exercise. We just don't.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
we're wired to be other oriented, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That self-care, mental self-care, we really need to take exquisite care of. So the way I do it is say, okay, I'm gonna give myself 5 minutes to be upset about this. Right? I'm gonna
Okay.
let it all out. And I may need a committed listener to just hear me out. So I'll reach out to one of my associates or whatever. Give me 5 minutes. I need to, right? And then I go, okay, I'm done. And when it seeps in again, I say, no, you're not going there. I'm not going there. I'm not, there's no cheese down that tunnel. I'm not going there. Right. I've
There you
learned
go.
everything I needed to learn about that. And now I'm going to let it go. So it's definitely a muscle, right? That needs to get exercised. Yeah.
Okay. Was there any other comments? Because you said there's seven pitfalls, right? So you talked about
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Are there any others?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So one of the things that women, and I'll cite Oprah in this one. So women tend not to make bold requests, you know. They'll see something like, oh, we should be doing this, right? And it's an ambition, it's a possibility, right? And then we say, yeah, but they're not going to, the timing is wrong, or they have other issues to deal with. I'm not going to put that out there, right? So that kind of bold idea,
Yes.
we kind of talk ourselves out of it a little bit, or sometimes a lot. Oprah used to say years ago, she's over this, but she used to say, I have these great ideas, and then I spend the rest of my time talking myself out of it, you know,
Hmm.
right?
Is
versus
that a female specific thing or is that like men too?
men
Or no?
get pretty bold about things. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know if
Okay.
you look at social media and the kind of risk-taking, physical,
Yes.
mental, whatever risk-taking men get is just like, our prefrontal cortex, when we get into the brain, is wired differently and it's more connected, which is the executive function of the brain. So we look
Okay.
at consequential thinking. So we say, okay, if I do this idea, if I really put this idea out, how will it affect over here or this department or this person or whatever, right?
But there's the pitfall because we talk ourselves out. Okay.
Or is there enough funding there? Do we have the staff for that? Whatever it is, right? But women have bold and brilliant ideas, and to put them out there, and then negotiate, from there, we get to the negotiation trap as well, is super important, right? Because we do have a different thought process, so we see things where we can say, you know what, we don't have to do it this way anymore. We've been doing this for 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's try something different here. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
mean.
Okay. Okay. And then you just mentioned negotiation. Is that another trap right there?
So there's a couple of things about negotiation for women. One is negotiation for salary,
Yes.
right? And we see that when women enter the workforce, they tend to accept whatever they're given, offered, right? And when
Yes.
men enter the workforce, they tend to negotiate, believing, whether it's true or not, believing that there's more room. So they'll say, think, well, I was actually expecting 20K more a year. So that thing over the course of a career can cost women over $1 million.
Yes. I know. Yeah.
Okay. You know the drill. So that's one thing. The other thing is that women at senior level, and I've worked a lot with women on boards, is that they tend not to stay the course in long, difficult negotiations because they see all that debate, all that back and forth as a br brutal waste of time. Like, why are we
Mm.
on this again and again and again, right? Let's just do it. So I always say, if you tend to be inclined to say, okay, I'm done with this, right? And I'm not negotiating anymore. You want to look at what's the win for me, because we tend to not think about that. What's the win for me here? And
Mm.
staying the course all the way, right? It's amazing to see how when women do that, what they're able to accomplish, both on the salary side and on the negotiation side. So that's another pitfall.
So one thing, and because I want to hit the rest of the list, but one thing that I have, and I think it's because I try to be one of the guys for so long. Maybe I was born with it, maybe I developed it, is just like tenacity. Like I'm like a dog with the bone, right? So I have learned I just don't give up to the point of like,
Beautiful.
you're not gonna push me off the like where I'm at, right? But that took a lot of time for
Yeah.
me to develop. So I'm assuming that is that not a normal thing for women? Like you're saying, like most of us are just like so annoyed by the fight or by
Yes.
like all of that. We're like, forget it.
Right.
Versus like I've had to like contort myself to,
I love it.
but I think that's something I had to learn on the positive with negotiation.
Well, that's the brilliant side of it. And the thing is that women are brilliant negotiators consistently
Yes.
when they negotiate for others.
Ooh, because it's
We're like
community
mama
based.
bears, right? We're mom. You,
Yes.
you come between me and my colleagues or my kids. Are you kidding me?
I will decimate
I
you.
am all the way. I am all the way, mama bear, right? I'm all the way. It's in the context of negotiating for ourselves that we need to use the same
Interesting.
skills in doing that, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, but you know what? It's giving me a question for future coaching clients, right? It's like if they're struggling with negotiation and I know they have kids, it's like, well, how would you defend your friends or how would you defend your children? Use it in the context if your kid was 16 and needed help with a negotiation or just out of college, how would you negotiate with that kid?
And you know what? The light bulb will go on, right? Because they will discover, oh my God, I have this competency, right?
Yeah, and I just haven't turned it on for myself is what you're talking about.
That's it. That's it. It's already there. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. What are the remaining confidence pitfalls?
Let me see what I think one of the things that we really need to think about too is networking. So women are brilliant networkers. Women tend to network for relationships, people they relate to, right?
Okay.
I trust this person, I relate to this person, versus networking strategically. So often I say, it's not about how, it's about who, right?
Mm,
So as an entrepreneur, one of the things that we fall into is we spend a lot of time on how, the research, the evidence, right?
mm-hmm.
And so 80% on the how and 20% on the who. Like, who is it that I need to strategically network with to advance my career or whatever it is you're up to in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, who's out there in the world doing some pretty great stuff about gender intelligence, gender equality, empowering women, etc., that I need to network with. I literally have to put that in my calendar, right? Because I tend not to do it strategically, right? I tend to take on whatever's coming at me every day, you know? Does that make sense?
Yes, it's like, again, maybe not putting yourself first, or maybe there's a
Right.
little bit of nervousness around like, well, how, it's
Right.
like, it's the same thing. It's like asking for relationship, asking for money. It's all tied to like investing in ourselves.
It's very great. And I speak for myself, but I certainly know a lot of women will relate. It's the no part, right? So if I ask, will you network with me, or, will you, I mean, I remember a panel when I was like 25 years old, and there was a panel of these financial experts. And back then I was a single mom with three kids, and
Yeah.
I was at Sony, right? I needed to think about long-term, investment. So I went up to this guy who was UK brilliant guy, in a $5,000 suit, and I said, "Would you mentor me?" But I was
But
trembling.
that's like gutsy. And did he say no?
He said, "Absolutely."
Oh,
You
he
know,
did.
he said, "Absolutely." I mean, he was honored. We were friends for 30 years, and he
Wow.
guided me through it. We would have lunch every week or every 2 weeks, and he would just say, tweak this, do that, da 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 da. And I had like $20,000, you know what I mean, to invest. You know what I mean? So it's like nothing in comparison to now. But for me, that was a lot of money.
Yeah, it was.
But the thing about just being bold and have fun with it, and you know what? If they say no, so what? So what? Right? You can just go on to the next thing, right? Like
But
we
didn't you just say it's also that like that's where the rumination. So if you don't just like the key from this conversation I'm getting is either with your partner, and if your partner doesn't provide that support, it's okay. Find people, because you've already told
yes,
me it could be anyone.
yes,
Find people that can help you discharge, and
yes.
find people, friends, colleagues, coaches, whatever resource,
Yes.
therapy, whatever you need to do to build those good mindset like skills, because otherwise you're going to get caught in like thought loops, right?
It's really, I mean, what you're saying is so perfect because we tend to, if we're in a committed relationship, we tend to expect that we'll sort that out together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Versus, wait a minute, I need a network of support here. I need to go to, so I have certain people I go to, like just this morning, I texted a gentleman by the name of Greg and said, let me know if you have 5 minutes. Right. And he said, sure. He responded immediately. He was at some airport somewhere, and we had the 5 minute conversation about a certain project client thing. Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
thanks, Greg. That's very useful. Thank you. That was really great. And he didn't say much. Do you know what I mean?
But
But it was
you got what you needed.
I got what I needed and I felt refueled. Do you know what I mean? So I
Yes.
think we need to think about that in a way that it's not a self-serving thing, it's a self-care thing. That we can go to that gas station or whatever it is, right? Wherever we go to get refueled and have that. Coaches are unbelievable, you know? And
Yeah.
and I just think that, for women, it's so important to have that, right? And it's so important to network strategically in a way that it supports whatever we're committed to in the future, right? We do a lot of, we call it a leadership inquiry, and we say, okay, if anything was possible with no constraints, where do you see yourself in 10 years, professionally and personally? Because now this is a human condition too, because men will go to the constraints too, but women see a lot more constraints than men do. That's why you see men go for big loans, or big, I'm going to do this big vision, all of that bold stuff, right? and
Yes.
and women, and myself, as entrepreneurs, I really had to learn to do that bold thing, right? Even if
That bold thing.
that's
Yes.
it, right?
So I don't know if we hit all seven. So did we hit them all, or are there any others?
We have one more. So this is more in business, and I know some of your audience are in mid-management, so women might relate to this, is that women tend, I call it the loyalty trap, right? So I got the job.
Mm,
This is the assumption. I got the job. Now I'm going to prove myself. So I'm going to work hard, long, so I'll get noticed. And I always tell
yes.
women, you will not get noticed. Hello. You're gonna become indispensable, which is not a
And
good
they're going to want to keep you right
keep
there.
you right there because I can
Ugh,
still count on you, Jen.
so frustrating for
Right?
me.
Right? So
Yes.
that loyalty trap. So what you want to do to get out of that is two things. One is when you are given or invited to take on project, make sure that you don't take the grunt, invisible crap projects,
Yes.
right, that women fall into. Take the leadership projects or negotiate in a way saying, okay, yes, I'll do that. I'll do that research. I'll do that PowerPoint. However, I'm also going to present it to the annual event.
Yes.
Like, so you bridge it into a leadership context very quickly. Or you say, yes, I'll take on this. However, I need three more people added to the team, right? So you get out of that grunt work loyalty trap. That's the last one.
Yeah, so I actually interviewed, it was a couple years now on the podcast, and they have a whole book on being like the office mom, which is exactly what you're talking about. So women get tapped for like the events and the party planning and all the things, or the note taking and the meeting. And then we're like, oh, but I'm so busy. But it's like, are you busy and or productive and visible, right? And you're advocating for yourself. It's very, very different. You can have busy work, but if you're not visible, like no one cares. Like they don't even care what you're doing because you're just doing it behind the scenes. Like you're slaving away in the kitchen and everyone's just sitting waiting for the meal to be served.
That's exactly right. I do want to add one more thing. So this is a tech company because it's real recent. So she's a 35-year-old, brilliant, brilliant engineer, right?
Yes.
She was going to Germany to present at an annual event, and her boss asked her to, can you do the prep for the PowerPoint and present to them? So she said, oh
Hmm.
my God, I have this opportunity to present to all the leaders at this tech company, big, big tech company, right? And she was so excited. So I was working with her on, getting that done, etc. Blah, blah, blah. Make a long story short, she flew there, she got there, and she had pre-sent the PowerPoint deck to her boss, right? And he went and he sent back, he said, oh, I'm very impressed. That's superb. Thank you for doing that. Right.
Hmm.
She gets back, she gets there, she gets, to present it, and he says, I got this. I got this. And he takes over the presentation. And she
What?
and she folds.
Oh no.
I said, don't fold. Right. She's texting me, right? And she folds. And he takes on, and he doesn't have the depth of the deck. He doesn't know the background of the research. So he's just breezes through the slide deck like surfacey stuff. And she's sitting there fuming, saying, oh my God, you didn't say this, and that. They're not going to buy in. And they didn't buy in, right? Right. So 2 days later, I talked to her and she says, I'm out of that company. And I said, no, you're not.
Ugh.
Not. And she did. She left. It was one of those things, like the last straw of grunt work with no visibility, no credibility, no acknowledgement.
But here's the thing I say people to this
Yes.
is wherever you go, there you are, right? And if you carry your patterns with you,
Yes.
you're going to carry it into the next place. So
She
again,
did. And she did.
and
Yep.
she did. Okay. So like my daughter, and this like relates, I swear. So like my daughter was having a friend issue, like, preteen rough, right? Rough year, seventh grade. Oh my, so rough. But I'm like, hey, here's your part in it, and here's their part in it, right? Own your side of this, of what you need to do. It's the same thing in this scenario. It's like she needs to heal and repair that side of herself so
Mhm.
that and she did, unfortunately. So we vilify, the boss, the company, the environment, da 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 da. But in that case, she needs to take some responsibility for advocating for herself and not bringing it forward, if that makes sense.
I always say there's equal learning here in a situation like that, right?
Yes.
Also, to make sure you make the distinction between what happened, right? What happened or what is so, what you wished had happened or what you wish was so, right? You
Yes.
can take a lot more because there's a lot of reactivity in the wishing and, well, oh, well, my, well, God, awful, blah, 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 versus, okay, this is what happened, right? So reaction versus responding, right?
Reaction versus responding. So that reactive versus that proactive.
Right. So, okay, this is what happened, right?
Yes.
I don't like it. So what? This is what happened, right? So what
Yes.
am I going to do with what has happened?
Mm.
In smart, thoughtful way that will advance my career
Yes, I
or
told I
whatever it
can.
is.
Yes,
Make
I totally agree. Yes, it absolutely makes sense. So we've talked about the pitfalls. I just want to go back. We've kind of like danced around it, but I just wanted them to hear. So
yeah,
there, you have three tips to nurturing our inherent strengths, like in that brain, right, as women. So can you share those?
yeah. We touched on it a little bit, but of course, yeah.
Yes.
So one of the things is to make sure that you take care of a healthy brain, because women, on average, just so you know, have twice more stress in the workplace and four times greater at home. That's the average research
Oh, wow.
around stress. And part of it because we don't know how to take care of our brain and ourselves,
Okay.
right? So
Yeah.
one of the things that I say, which we touched on, is when you're worried about something, ask yourself the question, is any amount of me worrying about this going to make any difference? Really, right? And if the answer is no, then the tip is to let it go, right?
Yep.
Let it go, right? So that's
Okay.
one tip. Second, make sure that you create a long-term intention for yourself, whatever it is that you are up to in life, and let it be known for people, right? Because when you do that, you're going to elicit sponsors. I mean, then it won't even know that they're sponsoring you, but you've just enrolled them into, this is where I see myself 10 years out.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that you have that. And I call it a living document because it might change from year to year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it changes from quarter to quarter. And make sure that that long-term intention is both in your personal life and in your professional life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the third thing, right?
Okay.
And, no, sorry, the second thing. And then the third thing is learn about your brain. Whether you choose to read this book or just go on you learn about it, right? Because the empowerment that it gives you when you know how you're wired and you know how to take care of yourself and you know the incredible strength. We need women more than ever in the workplace, all over the world, right? Public, private sector more than ever because when women have their natural authentic leadership style, increased collaboration, it breaks down hierarchy, it breaks down silos. I mean, I've seen it over 30 years of this, right? It creates a world where we appreciate differences, where we encourage, okay, Jen, what's your perspective on this, right? I work with
Mm-hmm.
so many CEOs of Fortune 500 companies who say this. Once I learned about general intelligence, I knew that I needed women. I knew that I needed women on my team, right? And I knew that I needed to check in with their perspective because they connect the dots for me. Like I can't connect. Isn't that cool? Right? So if we can really gain that awareness around the fact that we're wired differently and that is something that will not only make a difference in our world, but make a difference in our as parents, in relationship, as managers, as executives, as leaders in this workplace and in the world.
Okay, so I have one because this goes to
Yeah.
you have an assessment on your site about being a gender aware leader.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool. And so would you recommend, like as a first step, like maybe even, females listening or anyone listening to take that assessment?
Yes.
Because we may not know. Like I might be like kind of deaf to gender awareness, right? And I might be skewing one way or the other. So how can we leverage that tool? Because I think it's very generous. You have it on your site.
Yeah, you can definitely leverage that. I think it'll give you, and it gives you solutions too. And it gives you a sense of, so it's called heart, head, and hands, right? So head, if we can understand it cognitively, no problem. Yeah, I can see that. Like even us in terms of communicating how men and women
Hmm.
distress and all that makes total sense. It's totally relatable, right?
Hmm.
Right. Does it live within your values? Probably. Can you apply it? That's the key, right? So often it's in the hands, in the application of it, that's a challenge. So that assessment gives you solutions on how you can actually accelerate, your ability to really make this happen in your life.
Okay. A couple last things I want to squeeze in here. So, you know how you talked about, I'm just curious about this. Like you talked about, I'm going back to being one of the guys.
Yes.
So it's still out there. You know it. I know it. I've had like women in leadership, like even higher levels, that when they tear up still, like if they're emotional, that kind of stuff, it's still not regarded well. And I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on that, like if those cardinal rules still can't be broken, or are you hoping with this gender intelligence and this gender awareness that we can break that down and people can have a moment of vulnerability at work?
Right. So these pitfalls that we went through, we partnered
Yes.
with America, and we went into high schools and colleges, and we said, okay, do you relate? They all related to these pitfalls. So let's not think that this is a certain age thing. This is a generate. This just exists in the water that we're swimming in. So back to the tears. Men tend to explode when they're dealing with something that's upsetting them, right? Oh,
Hmm.
and then boom, boom, boom. Women tend to implode. Part of it is that tear ducts are more connected and larger, so tears flow more in women when they're feeling something, right?
Mm,
And often, as you pointed perfectly, is it gets misinterpreted as, oh my God, here she goes, she can't handle this, right?
yep.
You can't handle it. Oh my God, she's not strong, or whatever the
It's not
invisible.
appropriate. It's not
Yeah, what are you
professional.
doing? You're
Yep.
being manipulative, all of that
Yep.
stuff. Versus, you know what? So this, I can actually mention a company. So Cisco, so there's this brilliant woman engineer in her 40s at Cisco. She was the head of a big project. And there was this what is called computer system that was breaking down, and she thought, "Oh my God, this is going to cost us, $10,000 a second if this continues." So,
Oh my God.
get this, $10,000 a second.
Oh my God. I'd be crying.
So she's on with the team 24/7 that are exhausted in tears, and she said this, guys. She's the only woman in She said, guys, don't let the tears fool you. This is total sign of frustration and anger. I'm not falling apart here. You know, and
Ooh.
then we're like, oh, okay. I mean, they completely got it. And and what was beautiful about when I talked to the guys about it, they said, you know what, that it just it just blew my mind that she said that because I so admire and respect her. And the fact there was tears, I thought, oh my God, there's a crack in her arm or something. But when she said that, I thought, that's why my spouse, or that's why my daughter, or that's why it's frustration and anger, you know? It's not that, it's not a weakness, not their fault. I don't need to prop them up and fix them or whatever the heck they thought, right? So women
Okay.
express it differently. It doesn't mean that women aren't sad, by the way, but I'm talking about in the context of the workplace. Often the tears get triggered through frustration and anger.
So we don't leave women hanging. So would you recommend, because that engineer, the brilliant engineer at Cisco said, hey, this is not, as I'm pointing to my face, this is not weakness. This is frustration and anger coming out. Do you think we should use that as a tool so that when we have men that are not gender aware and
Yes.
maybe because everyone brings their own stories, right? And so if I know that if a typical, like I'm stereotyping man is sees a woman cry, he's gonna be like, she's weak, she can't do it. So is
Correct.
that a tool we could use there to
Yes.
like just be okay? So that's what we should do.
And,
Okay.
and use your own language. I mean,
Yes,
her
that was
language is
hers.
very, that was hers, right? Use yours, right?
Yes.
I often would just say, you know what? I am so frustrated right now. And I don't say anything else. And the tears are in my eyes. Do you know what I mean? And then, oh,
Yes.
she's frustrated, right? So whatever is authentic for you, but definitely use it because it's all about perception becomes reality, right? So
Yes.
nail the perception like what you did, in terms of negotiation, how you say you just have exercised that muscle. Wow, my perception of you, okay, I want to play with her. I want her on my team. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
always speak out the perception, right? No, speak out exactly how you are. I,
Yes.
and the last thing I want to leave, and then the next one we might want to go there. Um, Behind every complaint, there's an unspoken request, right?
Hmm.
So when you are triggered or emotionally triggered, or there's a conflict zone, pause and think about, okay, what's the, am I going to talk about the complaint and the story, or am I going to make a request? Example, very simple, and I know we're
Mm-hmm.
closing. If he comes late, if he's late, right? Versus saying, oh, Robert or whoever, Krishna, you're late. You were late last week. You were late this. Here's the list, right? Saying, no, you say, Robert or Krishna, I request that you are on time starting tomorrow. That's it. And for me, on time means whatever, 9 a.m., whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. Nothing else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because as women, we can explain the whole scenario, all the scenarios connected to that particular thing, right? And often in based on, and when they know that about you, they go, okay, Jen is on purpose. She means business. I'll better be on time. No
Yeah.
excuse, no story is gonna suffice for this leader, right?
Yes. Yes.
I'm course correcting, right? So anyway,
Hmm.
yeah.
No, that's really, no, yeah. You've given me, I have so many more questions next time. Okay, so let's wrap up. What are 1 to 2 ways that you believe, we've covered a lot of them, but just to kind of sum us, what are 1 to 2 ways you believe women can be braver at work today?
I think you have to be up for something, right? So up to something, right? So I
Hmm.
remember when I was in this course. This is a leadership course, and the leader in front of the room said to me, so I was complaining about Sony, and I was complaining about, oh my God, they flirt with me, they whatever it is that was going on, right?
Yes.
Even I closed this deal with a client. He said, "Oh, good girl, good girl." And I said, "I'm not a
Oh,
dog, you know what I mean? I'm not a horse." You know what I mean? So I was complaining about this stuff, all this stuff. And he said to me, "What are you up to?" And I went, "What do you mean?" And he said, "What are you committed to?" And I went, "What do you mean?" And I know we have 1 minute left. And he said, "Consider the possibility of getting yourself a bigger problem."
ooh,
And I went, "Holy Toledo, what a great question." And I took it on, not like he's being a jerk. I went,
yeah.
"Great idea." Right. So what I took on is the bigger problem, which is
Well, you just took on gender intelligence, that's all.
that's what I took on. Big, big, big job. You know what I mean? Big job. So anyway,
Oh, that's so fun. Okay, I love that. So, how can women connect, anyone listening, connect with you online, get the books? I'm sure they're wherever books are sold. And of course, we'll just say it one more time, The Brilliance of the Female Mind, How Women Are Transforming the World. So, how can we connect with you and get all the things?
okay, great. You can go on my website, genderintelligence.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy the book on Amazon or elsewhere where you choose.
Yep.
Um, you can go on our YouTube podcast, although I really like working with you. So we're going to do this again.
Yes, we are.
And of course, link on LinkedIn, or just click on contact on our website, and it will go directly to my CEO, Fran Hansen, and she'll connect with me.
Okay. Barbara, thank you so much. This has been talk about energy. Like this has really moved me and really trained me and given me so many new skills. So thank you so much. And I appreciate everything you're doing in the world.
Thanks. Thanks, Jen. We'll see you soon.
Well, that's a wrap on my discussion with Barbara today. I hope you found our conversation both valuable and inspiring. As a reminder, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. The show is also available on any other podcast platform you enjoy. Until next time, show up, love the brilliance of your mind, and be brave.